Pine. And then a draft whistled dust off the marionette, then knocked it down where it had stood propped for months. The crash sent goose flesh along the boy's skin, sent him cowering under his bed. Up until now, the boy did all he could to avoid touching or even glancing at the new toy of his old body. Nights, he'd tweeze new splinters where he missed before. Sometimes the splinters were not splinters, but new sprigs of hair. Then there were the nightmares. The fairy returning to help his father fold him back inside the coffin body. It became clear he didn't recognize himself. So he'd spend hours locked in his room in front of the mirror, running an index finger across the eyelashes, twisting the dark curls until each root was close to snapping away. Now, when he's naked, he takes inventory of the parts, takes his father's whittling knife to the inside of his thighs, only the tiniest incisions, to make sure he bleeds. I live in Novi, which sits about 30 miles west of Detroit. I moved here about 10 years ago when my father passed away. So this place has become a bit of a haven for me. You know, it's the place that I went to in my grieving. And so my relationship to this place is pretty intimate in that way. But Novi is like any other Midwestern town. The landscape is constantly in flux. You know, it's not uncommon to see, you know, farmland sandwiched in between large strip malls and condos. You know, the natural world and the modern world are constantly in negotiation here, you know, in collision here, which gives the town this peculiar energy. And I think over the years, now that I'm looking back, I think over the years, you know, I've become this town. You know, I'm both repelled and attracted to nature. And I think that shows up in my work too. Of the land being this thing to be feared and this thing that is to be embraced. Culturally speaking, though, Novi contains a large population of Japanese and South Asian families, although it is still pretty predominantly white in most areas. It's managed to become more and more diverse since I've been here, though. In my neighborhood in particular, I'm seeing a lot of people from Detroit, particularly African Americans, who are being priced out of their neighborhoods, or, you know, maybe their blocks are being cleared for new developments. And so it's quite a bittersweet time in southeastern Michigan, in the Detroit area and in the surrounding areas. You know, it's exciting to see from the outside the city being recreated and revamped and improved, but it's sad to see these families being displaced, being forced out of their neighborhoods, either through you know, these corporations buying up land, or through legal loopholes, or through crime. But it's an exciting time, and it's happening at breakneck speeds, which is mind-boggling to me. Where do I feel most safe? or unsafe. I'd have to say no matter where I am, I never feel safe. And it has to do with how I was brought up. When I was a kid, I moved a lot, and I also lost a lot. I lost a parent, and and I lost things. Photo albums, and I don't think there's a single. I don't think I own a single. Okay, there may be one or two photos of me as a child, but other than that, I've lost a lot. And in those moves, we've been evicted a few times. So the idea of feeling a sense of security and safety, and having bearings in some place, or in some idea of a place, is still alien to me. My mind is such that I'm always looking for the next thing to go wrong. My father used to always say, you're not content unless you're worried about something. And it's not a great way to live, I guess. And I'm doing better. I'm doing better at it. But the same mentality happens to me on the page as well. Someone asked me in a recent interview whether or not I feel as if things are coming together for me as a poet. And my response was absolutely not, restless. Yeah, restless is the word, I think. When I've finished a poem, and I use finished in quotes, there's always an aching to fortify something more, to say something in a different way, to go back and change a word, when of course, there is never the right word to sort of make it all better. Last night, I was trapped in the wrong body again. A downy woodpecker shakes its head the way, say, a scruffy-faced teenager might. It's pulsing, the red streak running down the middle of its crown, or at least I think it's red in the glow of the bird-spiked Meijer sign. Then again, this late, I'm not sure if it's a bird at all. It could, in fact, be a teenager, a deaf 15-year-old boy, or he'll eventually go deaf if he doesn't turn down his earphones. I could be anyone walking toward him. Not listening to anyone, his ears are full of wax, but even that isn't right. No one listens to records anymore, you see. Yet his head is full of a violent song in the same way mine could. He's dabbing at his phone screen, like a reflection one of the Walled Lake townies might see before they've gone too far. In the winter months, during the day, they walk on the lake's ice in a somnambulous lurch, not listening to the ice. They pitch their huts and bore their holes in the floor. And there are fish swishing in sequined gowns, their denticulate jaws mouthing like background singers. All those scales mimicking knives, a soundtrack to kill by. Last night, I was trapped in the wrong body again. I fell asleep after jacking off to a freeze frame of Christian Bale in American Psycho. Then I dreamed I was Christian Bale and couldn't stop touching myself. I was the Dark Knight, only Christian Bale as the Dark Knight, throwing a tantrum on set. My cow couldn't keep up with my pout. Then I howled myself into myself again, big and black and terrifying. I was a monster knocking down all of the lights. I punched someone's lights out. When I came to, the woodpecker was in my hands, feeding on nothing because it was dead. Or rather, the died teenager, who looks like a downy woodpecker, is small enough to fit in my hands. There is no music to kill. There is nothing left to hear. The red streak is no red streak but a wound. I swear, I found him. I fished the blade out. Where do I hang out? Every weekend, I'm usually driving, 2 counties over to see a play, a local production, or I'm going to see a movie that's playing in a theater that's, 15 miles away, because I'm crazy like that. But these are actually, it's these spaces where much of my writing happens. I believe that a writer is always writing, even if he doesn't have a pen and a pad in his hand. Anytime he's taking in the world and thinking about things, that's writing too. It's sort of making sense of things. And so that's what happens with me when I go to a play or a musical or a movie. I'm thinking of things, Southeastern Michigan has some very impressive theater groups here. I mean, there's the Tipping Point Theater, there's the Ringwald Theater, there's Meadowbrook, there's the Jewish Ensemble Theater. All these groups, they're doing these really incredible productions, sometimes with nothing, for me, watching community theater is really a lesson in creative problem solving. These people are usually making elaborate set pieces out of cardboard and a, hot glue gun. I'm exaggerating. Or creating these very large orchestrations with, a 5 or 3 piece band, They're making something out of nothing, which is exhilarating as an artist, as a writer, to see that play out on a stage, literally. I saw a local production of The Boys in the Band. It was really good. And there's this one of the actors, he drops a glass bowl or something, and the expressions on their faces for just a nanosecond was like, oh shit, oh crap. But they recovered so fast. Like, this actor, he recovered so fast, and he embraced the error, and that little flub became this running joke that informed the play and informed the comedic timing of things, and it just became this running joke. So it takes a good actor to sort of transform an error or this wild thing into something transcendent. And it's the same thing, for me on the page. It's, I struggle with embracing the error, which is why I revise, which is why it takes me so long to revise, is, I struggle with embracing the error of things and sort of latching on, to the wild element of the work. sort of letting the made thing of the poem shape me as the maker, because for me, that's what writing is. It's that that symbiotic relationship, between the maker and the made thing, and the negotiation that happens between the two. And particularly with a poem, a good poem, a reader is sort of asked to sort of embark on that journey again, that making of that made thing. But I suppose in a way that, that makes me, me going into, loving, going into preferring these interior spaces of the theater and the movie houses, preferring the darkness, the dark rooms in which, the attention is pushed away from me. I suppose that makes me an interior person. I prefer these internal landscapes, these landscapes of the mind, more so than the ones out there, and more so than the ones that we can touch or that we move through. Yeah.